It's time for the Pittsburgh Sports Reporters, an inside look at your teams in your city.
Welcome to the Pittsburgh Sports Reporters. It's Monday, July 22nd. I'm David Todd of 970 ESPN, and I'm joined by my colleagues Stan Savran and Tim Benz of the X Morning Show. Guys, the Pirates, 3-game series. They get swept by the Reds. Melanson gives up the 2-run double to Votto. 4-3. The Pirates lose all 3 games. There's panic in Pittsburgh. Of course, that's not what happened. Mark Melanson induced a double play to Votto. The Pirates got out of the inning. Grilli came in. The only place he's blown a save on a home run to Jay Bruce, and he shut down the Reds in the 9th inning. The Pirates got a 3-2 win, but there's still panic in Pittsburgh. Stan, where are we?
There was panic Saturday. I was at an event, charity event Sunday morning. People, even the Pirate Parrot looked shaky. He did. He was there. I calmed him down. I said last week.
It wasn't the late 80s, where it was early 90s.
Exactly.
Literally shaky?
Yeah. I said last week they're locked to make the playoffs. I believe that. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't have much doubt about that. However, they really needed a win yesterday. For their own psyche, if nothing else. For their own psyche, they needed to win that ball game yesterday. I don't know that gets them back on the straight and narrow. I don't know if that manages their equilibrium, but I think it was very important to win that game yesterday. Now, really, if you're able to split in Washington, not unreasonable. If you're able to take 2 out of 3 from the Marlins, not unreasonable. You come back home 5-5, and that's completely and perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, and what they do this year, it looks like anyway a little bit better than last year, stop the bleeding. You know, that Mets series sort of stopped the bleeding after they had some tough times. And, you know, like Stan said, sure, you lose 2 out of 3 in Cincinnati, but that's a division rival on the road, 2 games out of the All-Star break. You get 1, regroup, go on the road, take a split maybe against Washington, or who knows, maybe win 3 or 4. I just feel like this team gets its equilibrium back a little bit better than last year's club. And the sample size is smaller to this point because this is about when they did do their death spiral a year ago, or awful close to it on the calendar anyway. So maybe I'm saying that a little bit too early. I just feel like the pitching is too good, and yesterday was an example. Even though Locke walked 6, he only gives up 1 earned run in 6 innings and gives him a quality start, and I feel like those quality starts are more easily attainable to prevent 5 and 6 and 7 game losing streaks in the second half of the season. So I think that's what will keep him afloat long enough to at least get that second wild card.
I will say this, David, if I may, just to jump in. The pitching is the reason they collapsed last year primarily. The pitching is too good this year. Even through most of this stretch after the 9-game winning streak, even the games they lost, they got good pitching. Yep. You know, they didn't hit. They're not going to hit much more than they're hitting. The only thing that bothered me primarily about the losses Friday and Saturday night, and that's a good ball club you're playing, is not that they lost, but the way they played. It just goes to show you what they have to do to win. They kicked balls around. They did not make plays in the infield. Mercer, Alvarez, these are plays that have to be made. Burnett made a bad play himself, although that may have been brought on by Alvarez. Forget the fact he didn't hit the ball in the infield once. Those are the kinds of things they cannot do. They're not good enough to overcome that. Most teams are not. They especially cannot boot ground balls, turn double plays into single outs or no outs at all.
Yeah, no question there was some sloppy baseball by both teams the first 2 nights. One of the things to point out here as the Pirates go to Washington, and they're the team that I've pointed to as the team that the Pirates need to watch, or fans need to watch in terms of playoff contention, they came out of the chute 0-3. The only team that went 3-0 on the weekend was the Dodgers. They're playing as well as any team in baseball. There's only one team in this playoff chase that is not currently in playoff position that's above 500, and that's the Dodgers at 50-47. The Pirates are 18 games over. I mean, as we've talked about, if they play 500 ball the rest of the way, somebody's going to have to get amazingly hot to catch them, and they're in a great spot. Tim, at the trade deadline last year, the Pirates made 3 deals. They didn't turn out to be great deals. They got Wandy Rodriguez, Travis Snyder, and Chad Qualls. Neil Huntington has pointed to himself and said maybe he disrupted the chemistry a little bit. I think that's hogwash. I think you go out and you get good players and you do the best you can with them. We've seen a lot of turnover in the roster this year already, a bunch of different starting pitchers because of injury. Are you at all concerned about the chemistry of this team? And I'll ask you the question, do you think the Pirates have their best 25 in the organization in Pittsburgh right now, and what changes need to be made?
Well, the first part of that is no, probably not, especially if Tony Sanchez is starting to look like a potential backup major league catcher. Maybe Mike McHenry just isn't. So my answer to that initially is no. And to expand on your point about the chemistry, you know what creates chemistry? Scoring runs. You know what creates scoring runs? Hits with runners in scoring position, which they don't do. The biggest difference right now between the St. Louis Cardinals leading the division and the Pirates being second is the batting average with runners in scoring position. I'm surprised when you look at that number actually, Stan, that the gap is as close as it is between the two teams. Looking at that stat alone, the Cardinals are the best in baseball.
Historic. I mean, they're 60 points ahead of any team in the National League. They're historically good.
Well, this is, yeah, exactly. It's 338 right now. Detroit's second at 288 when it comes to runners in scoring position. 5 of the top 8 guys in the National League are St. Louis Cardinals when it comes to hits with runners in scoring position.
And just to your point, Tim,
Without Matt Holliday, by the way.
That gap between the Pirates, or the Cardinals and the Tigers, first and second in Major League Baseball, is almost the same as between the Tigers and the Pirates, who are
last.
Yeah, last. So,
Last.
I mean, the Cardinals are extraordinary.
The problem is, though, when we get to the trade talk, is the guys that they're focusing on getting, according to most people, are all really bad with runners in scoring position, too. Like Giancarlo Stanton and Rios and Pence, I think, all have bad batting averages, 225 or lower when it comes to runners in scoring position. So if they're going to get those guys, they better do a better job in that regard. I'm not as worried about chemistry being thrown off. I don't know how you guys feel. I feel like chemistry is the least important of the 4 majors in baseball. It's a team collection of individual moments.
Yep, good
it's not
point.
like a point guard needs to get at the center of the ball. It's not like you got to work in concert on a power play or 3 wide receivers need to know what the 4th is doing so Big Ben can roll out and hit him in motion. You know, it's just, to me, chemistry is less important in baseball than it is in the other sports.
They collapsed last year because, again, I think their pitching collapsed. There was a lot. I did not like the Brad Lincoln trade, not because it was going to upset chemistry, but because he was pitching well at that point, and they got
A marginal outfielder.
a marginal. I was looking for the word fringe 4A player is what they got in Travis Snyder, and the same thing with Casey McGee, good guy to have around. By all accounts, Brandon Inch is a great guy to have around. So is Michael McHenry. When you're hitting 180, take your chemistry set and go in the basement. That doesn't cut it. And you know what? I totally discount what players say because I go back a few years ago. I can't tell you the exact year. But near the trading deadline, as usual, they were totally out of it. And they traded Mike Fetters. And the uproar in the clubhouse was like
Oh, I remember that,
they traded
yeah.
Willie Stargell or something. Mike Fetters? You know, are you kidding?
And he hadn't been here for that long,
No.
right?
The players looked at it and said, you're trading veterans, you're not giving us a chance to win. They were like 9 games under 500 on July 3rd. What?
When was it they built the shrine?
Pat Mears.
Pat Mears.
Right, yeah.
That was
First
Kendall
European
and
theme park.
that was
Giles.
Kendall and Giles, right
Yeah.
after they gave that loser a contract hardly commensurate with his abilities. And like many in that club, I was worried about chemistry. That was I had a former Pirate player tell me that was the worst clubhouse atmosphere he had ever witnessed in his entire major league career. Mike Williams, Giles, Kendall, Mears, you were here.
Chris Steins.
Whatever. So I'm not worried about that.
Well, look, Stan, today, let's take a guess.
Players wanna win?
If Neil Walker,
Shut up.
If Neil Walker comes back today, is the move they option Josh Harrison to Indianapolis, or will they release Brandon Inch? What's your bet? Today or tomorrow if they make that move?
I think they're going to option Josh Harrison until the year 2020.
Right.
I think they'll option him if they can because, again, they probably just want to keep Inge around maybe for that effect, maybe because Huntington is paranoid about it and they have another option literally in Harrison, then go ahead and do it.
But did you notice in the Saturday night game,
Didn't use him.
he didn't use him. And I realized that McHenry has a, quote, history against Chapman. He got 1 hit off of him. All right. But he didn't use Inge. Plus, as versatile as Inge can be, I think Harrison's more versatile. He can pinch run, do those kinds of things. I'm with you. I think that they'll option because the option's available. And to a point you made, too, Mike McHenry, good guy. But if the reason that Tony Sanchez can't come up here and be the backup to Martin is his defense, has anybody looked at Michael McHenry and throwing out? I know he threw one out the other night, but come on.
Yeah.
Sanchez's calling card was supposed to be his defense, and they were waiting for his offense to catch up, which
3 for
apparently
3
it
last
has.
night.
just
with a homer.
real quick to underscore the point that Stan made about chemistry. If the chemistry was thrown off so much by those trades last year, then how come everybody likes Travis Snyder so much, and why is he hosting giant barbecues in Seattle? And if the chemistry was thrown off so much, why is everybody so concerned about Wandy Rodriguez coming back? I don't think those guys threw off chemistry last year. And if they do go out and get Hunter Pence was single-handedly designated by Giant teammates as the reason why they won the World Series because of his pregame speech in the wild card round.
You know what I mean? If a guy comes up and hits a shot to the gap with the bases loaded,
that's chemistry.
Everybody
he becomes
likes it.
pretty popular.
Guys, Tom Brenneman, Reds announcer, I don't know if you saw the story. He said during the game yesterday, I guess he didn't know his mic was hot. He said, "This guy stinks," basically talking about Jeff Locke. Tom Brenneman did the national game on Fox, and I think Pirate fans have come to really dislike this guy. He's obviously the Reds announcer. I thought Tom Verducci did a great job. Do we care that Tom Brenneman said into a hot mic, "This guy stinks" about the Pirates
Are we sure
pitcher?
that he did, or was he talking about Corky Miller coming up next? Because that's the spin on it. And the spin is, if he's going to use that spin, I wonder how he's going to face Corky Miller.
He's going to walk into the clubhouse every day, so he's got that.
I would wait and make sure that's what he meant, and he's right about Corky Miller. He's obviously wrong about Jeff Locke. I'll tell you, aside from Tom Brenneman and the fact that his dad has been the Reds announcer since
time began.
I was in college. We used to go down and watch Reds
I thought
games.
you were going to talk about saying something into a hot mic.
Yeah, no, that's always a danger. You always have to. My guess is Corky Miller, who is terrible. Just another thing, talking about that, bro. I thought Tom Verducci was tremendous, and not a writer knows stats and he knows backgrounds. The guy knows the game.
He was great. I thought he was
tremendous.
Guys, we've just got a minute left. Steelers open camp on Friday. 2 questions
No
for
one's
you.
talking about
we'll
it.
start, Tim, what's the most interesting position battle for you?
Position battle?
Yeah.
Okay, position battle. It had me going in a different direction there at first. A position battle, I want to see if the two first and second round draft choices can emerge enough to start, as I think they probably should.
Stan, we're 4
Jones
months
and Bell.
away. Give me a record right now. If you were going to take a shot, where are they going to finish up?
9-7.
Tim?
I was going to go with 7 and 9, but if the two rookies look like they're players, get me again after the preseason.
All right, I'll go 9-7 as well. That's going to wrap things up for this week's edition of the Pittsburgh Sports Reporters. Tim Benz of the X Morning Show, Stan Savran of 970 ESPN, and David Todd of 970 ESPN. Thanks for watching.